grab a seat, order a drink, and welcome to the brightest center in the galaxy for all things Star Wars Expanded Universe. And whatever else may blow in the door. You're listening to the Callum's Cantina podcast, and I'm your host, Callum. No matter if you're a seasoned bounty hunter of lore, or you're just looking for a good story, you've stumbled into the right cantina. Today, we're setting our sights on something truly foundational. What I call the Essential Expanded Universe Collection. We're talking those core tales, the legendary sagas that every EU fan needs to experience in order to understand the main events of each era. So pull up a chair and let's unravel the legends. And joining me, I have Jeff, Cam, and Ethan.
Hello.
Hello.
What's up?
Hello.
Hey.
Jeff, Cam, Ethan, and occasionally a cameo from my dog if he barks again. I don't know.
So
You should-
I will add. If you hear the name Jax, that is also Ethan. I'm also commonly known as Jax Voss on YouTube. So I'm just adding that in there because Cam is going to call me Jax.
100%, because I only know you from like the RPG.
So yeah, the concept of this idea came from seeing the Essential Legends collection reprints of some of the books, but going, there's no real plan for this.
They're just reprinting everything.
Yeah.
So
Right. There are books that are not essential at all.
Yeah.
I don't get me wrong, I love Yoda Dark Rendezvous, but it is not essential. Not in the slightest.
Yeah.
But again, I'll just keep printing them as long as they sell, to be perfectly honest. And
Oh yeah.
I did have this. I mean, Callum and I had a similar chat a little while ago about essentials and that kind of thing. And it does boil down to, I guess, how do we call it essential? Because like say Heir to the Empire, I'm sure we're all going to say is essential. I'm sure someone at some point will suggest that that's essential. But then there's so many other little concepts and other things that are referred to that branch out. Does that mean that everything that refers to those events is also essential? So it can get very spidery. And I came to the conclusion that last time that it's not everything, but it's pretty close. I mean, I can see why they're reprinting everything.
There's good arguments for everything. Yeah.
Yeah,
there are some good arguments. No doubt about that. So like where I think I would like to like see where do you guys like start the timeline on essentials?
Okay, so I started with the ground rules for everyone listening, understanding of. We're not going, especially my approach, I'm not going to include the 2008 Clone Wars. That just makes everything way too messy for anyone.
Oh yeah, no, I think we all understood that.
Yeah. Just so anyone listening that may not know, that's a whole different topic.
Yeah.
Look, when you said essentials, I just kind of assumed that had long been thrown out just with the word essentials being used. So.
And these are ones that I went, okay, you're going to read them at least once to understand them. Even if they're not the best book, you'll read them once to understand what happened. And they give the
Which was also another problem. Another problem that kind of like, did we ever end up publishing that chat we had, or were we just chatting? I can't even remember.
No, it was kind of an impromptu half start to this podcast, but then I went, hang on a minute, this actually needs to be better
organized. Are you talking about the one we did before, like a year ago?
Yeah. Because the thing is you've got that issue as well where, because you just said then that there are some books that aren't that great, but they're somewhat essential. Well, the reverse is also true. There's quite a lot of books that are probably very well written. Same as comics. There's some amazing comics with like amazing characters and storylines and arcs that you don't need. They've got nothing to do with the core storyline at all. So both can be true.
Yeah, I would suggest like Agents of the Empire or whatever, that James Bond spy thing.
So
phenomenal.
Good.
You don't need it.
Oh yeah,
no,
totally unnecessary. Totally unnecessary. And like I said, Yoda Dark Rendezvous, totally unnecessary book, but it's a good story.
Yeah.
like I love it, but it's just it doesn't really add or subtract anything from the overall storyline of the Clone Wars.
We also assume people are familiar with the original saga of movies.
Yeah,
I mean, I would hope so. If
I
you're
would hope
listening
so
to
for
this, you better be. You better be familiar with the original 6.
If you're unfamiliar with the terminology, yeah, that's the original 6 episodes.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got to say that there as well. Now, I've never read the books with this particular mindset because obviously I've watched the films. But
Right.
for someone, if your very first, like if you've never watched the films, if your very first introduction was, say, Heir to the Empire, I feel like there's enough setup there. There's enough character introductions. There's enough that you could probably start there without even watching the movies. Theoretically, why you do that, I'm not sure. But if an author is doing their job, the core idea and the core of the novel should be set up regardless in the first few chapters. So you could potentially not be familiar with the movies.
And
You probably should
apparently
be.
it was an early credo of the Lucasfilm licensing where they said everything that they read could be their first Star Wars, and so they wrote it that way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and
Which
that's
would
the
make an
thing.
awful lot of sense.
Which is great, yeah.
Actually, I believe there are a couple of people who didn't see the movies before they read their first book. I don't remember. I think I remember a couple of people online on like I forget if it was a Discord or a Facebook group, and I was like, oh, like Discord subreddit. I'm not quite sure where it was, but I saw that and I was surprised.
Mine's somewhat of a mix. So like I'd seen 4 and 6, but not 5. Whenever I had found, because they had 4 and 6 at the Blockbuster on VHS, but they didn't have 5.
Yeah.
So
that tracks.
And then I had read like the first trilogy I completed was Jedi Academy because I found that at a library book sale.
That's interesting because we both have the same book trilogy that we read first.
Now it's not my first EU book. My first EU book was Heir to the Empire, but I didn't have the whole trilogy. They didn't have the rest of it at the book sale.
Yeah.
And so then I had read most of the Bantam era stuff before I ever watched the prequels.
There we go.
Even though the prequels were already out by the time I was reading these.
Yeah.
That's how
Well, everyone's going to have a different path. I mean, Jedi Prince was my introduction, but mind you, I was also very young.
Ooh.
Yeah, mine was Jedi Prince, which and it wasn't even the first one. It was like book 3.
Oh, fair. No,
I still haven't read the first 2.
Oh, don't. Just don't.
Oh, they're lovely. Come on now.
Yeah, I think that was my first one. I think that was my first one that I read, and then I read the first Galaxy of Fear.
Oh yeah, the Galaxy of Fear books are really good actually.
Here's the funny thing: I wasn't allowed to read Goosebumps, but my mom bought me the Galaxy of Fear. I was like, Mom, this literally is titled Galaxy of Fear.
And it's marketed as
like,
Goosebumps, but Star Wars. Come on.
Right. And I still don't understand why she was okay with it.
It's literally that meme. It's like, Mum, can we have Goosebumps? No, we have Goosebumps at home.
Arguably, I don't think I would have liked Goosebumps as much anyway. So.
Yeah.
I loved Goosebumps as a kid. Read the crap out of it.
Oh, yeah. To circle this back around to your actual question, now that we've got the actual, like, okay, starting points can be wherever and go wherever you're interested in from what you read. I listed mine chronologically, so my first one that I have listed is A Dawn of the Jedi comics, which is in the pre-Old Republic era.
Yeah,
I do not.
I was curious if there was any short stories or anything that you wanted to list before it.
I didn't particularly include short stories because I feel like a lot of those don't give as much essential information.
Honestly, I only included like 2 in my list because I felt that they were kind of important. Though, to be honest, I think one of them, when I think about it now, the only reason I included is because it's really where Thrawn comes in.
Oh yeah.
Which
it
one
depends
is
how
I know
much
where we're
you
going.
want to follow particular characters and delve
Right.
into that, yeah.
Yeah. But no, I know
where
what
is
you
it?
mean, and yes, you're correct. That is essential.
Yeah, it's
I also had
Mist,
Dawn of
Is this
Mist
essential?
Encounter.
Short answer, yes. Aye, cool.
Mist
I did
Encounter
write
is
that down.
essential.
But
Yeah.
I'm with you guys on this. Yes, I didn't write that one, but yeah, Mist Encounter is really good.
I think Mist Encounter is probably the most essential short story. Other than that, most of the other ones are, they're nice short stories, but I don't think they're necessary.
Yeah, they add feeling background, especially the ones from the Tales of and from omnibuses.
Oh yeah. Oh, some of those are absolutely incredible. Like my favorite Boba Fett story still falls in there, which Notice Integrations Please, that one where he takes an entire Imperial garrison, pretty much
Yeah.
Batman style. It
It's
is
so
an
good. So good.
incredible short story. Is it essential? Nah,
No.
not at all.
Yeah,
Just about everything Boba Fett is not
That's the thing.
essential. But all of them are good.
Yeah.
Right. That's the thing. I don't think I included anything that was Boba Fett so centered. Yeah. So yeah, I included Into the Void in my list.
Okay, yeah.
Because I feel like there's aspects of Jedi culture and the way that they view the Force that's a little bit clearer than you get in the comics.
Yeah.
Just like the fact that they had that sorcery was considered like a good thing by some of them, and it like
I think you get the implication of that in the comics, like the alchemically changed rancors with the wings and all that.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, that's definitely how you stuff up a population. You drop a shipping container of winged rancors into the capital city.
Right.
Yeah.
That's how you do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, that's no. Look, that is really, really true. Because the thing is, and not to go back to your own definition, but when you were saying, because you could define essential as so different things, like essential for the most enjoyable. Like if you're trying to get someone into this, what are the most enjoyable reads, which are very different to what's most important to the storyline. And then if you're going to say the storyline, well, what do we mean exactly by that? Because if you ask Lucas, the storyline is just the father, the children, and the grandchildren. And so Dawn of the Jedi is so far removed that it would become non-essential.
You'd only start in the Rise of the Empire era, yeah.
Yeah, but in terms of understanding the arc that the Force has taken, that Force users have taken throughout the years, it would be quite essential. So,
yeah,
we're gonna run into this constantly nonstop with everything that it's like. Well, it means something here, but it doesn't mean something there.
I kind of cut it Into the Void because, like, I thought of main events of the era being like, okay, this is what happens at this time. So the comics cover the attack of the Rakans on Tython, the general direction that the Jedi are going, and also introduces at the start how the Jedi were formed. So that covers the main things, for that. And
that's why, that's why I was like, I consider this one essential, but I don't think that everybody's going to consider this one essential because Into the Void, it's good and it establishes aspects of lore that you don't get in the comic series, but I would say that it ultimately has more to do with like if you're looking at lore, which is one of my things, I like to look at lore and concepts a lot. So that's why I consider it essential. Obviously, if you don't, that's because that's how you look at it differently from the way I do, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I was just trying to pare it back because if I tried to look at it like that, I'll just be like, "Yep, everything's essential."
That's where you boil it down to, because the thing is, Dawn of the Jedi, if you cut off the entire era, if you just said the comics and the novel, never existed, everything else would still make sense. The rest of the EU would be absolutely fine, and so by that definition, not essential. But then, as you said, from a lore aspect, quite essential. From an enjoyability aspect, really essential. So. Yeah,
and they are pretty much the only things set in that era of the timeline, which is...
That is true.
What I thought was like, okay, let's get what each era's events pass through. And so pre-Old Republic, you're going to have the Dawn of the Jedi comics at least.
Right, and all we
You guys learn
get
about this so much
otherwise is
different.
little historical document things. That's all we really get otherwise. Like we get some information outside of the comics and that book about the Despot Wars, but we don't get much. And and we have some information about what was going on in the galaxy before, like out in the greater galaxy. We get some information outside of it, but other than that, we don't have much.
No.
I kind of like that though. Especially when it comes to like ancient history like that. If you look at like our ancient history of the world, like there's so many gaps that we know nothing about.
That's true.
I mean, all the prehistory that's out there that we know nothing about at all because there's no writing.
Right.
And so, like, I feel like you need to leave some sort of mystery, and I feel like Dawn of the Jedi, it balances that line really well. It introduces you to like the beginnings of the Force and the schism that creates the Jedi and the Sith. But it doesn't give you all of the information. It presents its information, and then the rest of the galaxy is still a mystery.
Yeah, and there's even still the history before the Dawn of the Jedi comics that it alludes to.
Right, and that's just
great.
It's just it doesn't exist.
Jasper agrees.
Yeah.
So for reference, I'm going to be noting all these down as we go, as far as what we'd actually put on a final list that we may all agree on. So that people have it for reference.
I mean, I'm perfectly fine with removing Into the Void. I'm perfectly okay with that. But yeah, the next thing I have is, again, thousands of years later, Tales of the Jedi.
Yeah, that's where I went to next as well.
like I just went, like, it was like, what's after that? Like, what's between them, really?
Yeah,
I really should have organized this, but this just came out of my brain on what things are essential, and I threw them on a piece of paper. There's no organization to this.
That's fair.
Yep.
That makes sense, yeah.
I don't think I have Tails.
Yeah. I mean,
like, why do you guys think they're essential? How about that?
Well, I consider them essential because you get the history of the Sith there. You get Naga Sadow and Exar Kun. You get the line through them, and you get that this is where the Sith come from. You get where the Sith originate. You get that they were originally a species. Then Exar Kun and right, and then you have Exar Kun, who technically is a successor to Freedon Nad, who there is no actual story about. There's just like a historical little bit, which I think is hilarious. He's like the most influential Sith who has no actual story. And
it's fine.
Yeah.
And the Sith are revived as a concept through Exar Kun, who's being influenced by the ghost of what's his name?
Oh mate,
Mark Aragnos up again.
Mark Aragnos.
Who is hilariously always a Sith spirit. You never actually see him alive.
Right. You never see the actual living Mark Aragnos. You see his corpse in one frame in one comic, and then he's a ghost the entire time. Otherwise, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
And the only other thing that I really like about those, well, the comics in particular, but from this era, is it's probably the only time where we really see a shift in technological advancements. Because I don't even really remember getting that from Dawn of the Jedi, but certainly everything that they use actually feels old and feels ancient. Not further along, say like Knights of the Old Republic or the MMO and that kind of thing. You could take a ship, a weapon, some armor, a costume, a planet from there, and pop it in the middle of the Clone Wars, pop it in the middle of Legacy, and it wouldn't look out of place. The technology
that is true.
Stagnate.
tremendously bother me that technology stagnates after the Tales period.
I mean, in some ways it does, but in other ways, like, okay, so if we look at just, if we look at, let's just look at the droids, for example. Like, if we compare just look at the astromechs, for example. Okay, R2D2 is, I mean, granted, R2D2 is an exceptional droid. He's an exceptional R2 unit to begin with, partially because he's never had a memory wipe in his entire existence. That droid has been
down. I should really just slow him down.
This droid is the Chad of all droids. He got the special computer. Okay, all he's just had upgrades. That's all he's gotten.
That's all he gonna get.
Right. He just got upgrades. His brain has been just upgraded. It's never been wiped. It's just been upgraded. And so he's exceptional. But if we compare just any other astromech of the prequels, original trilogy era and even later from except for the R1s. We don't count the R1s. They are the most non-astromech looking astromech droids in the world, or in the galaxy. Sorry.
Both.
Aside from that, they are very they are definitely more advanced. They're smaller. They're more compact. Whereas if you look at the Old Republic ones, they're clunky. They could easily be not they're not they're huge. They're big. You know, so
HK
in some ways,
would like to have a word with you.
Protocol droids do really change.
He would like a word with you.
Protocol droids do not. I'm just saying.
Going back to that question as well with the Tales of the Jedi comics, I put them because it covers a lot of this is what the Sith were doing in that time period, and here's what the Jedi were doing in that time period. And there's early Republic, which is very important to see how they evolve through the era.
Yeah,
that as well, because I like when you get to see Coruscant in the Golden Age of the Sith, I think it is, or the one after that.
Yeah. I've listed all the titles, so it's even if we don't need one of the storylines. Like Redemption is a little bit.
But
it's still important enough.
Redemption's not essential necessarily, but it without it, there's a weird gap. If you don't include it. But you get to see Coruscant in Tales, and it's so different. It is so different. Like when you go to the Naga Sadow period, it's even between that and what you see of it in the main Tales storyline. Even that's night and day. And that's a generation.
Yeah.
That's just one generation.
The Sith and the stuff with the brother and sister that I'm blanking on the name now. They're very early hyperspace explorers. You're seeing how the universe was starting to be mapped out.
How the routes are being formed.
You get a lot of interesting stuff there.
It is still, I mean, Devil's Advocate is still going to be essential to what exactly, because not much is essential, I guess, end of the day.
Right.
Yeah, and I think part of this comes from my, this sounds weird being a Star Wars fan, I really don't care about the Jedi and the Sith that much. That's just not my thing.
That's fair.
I like the regular schmoes of the galaxy.
There's great stuff with them too.
Right. Well, and again, this is why I think Mandalorians deserve a little more attention than they do get. Because like they don't really become prominent in stories until you get to the Knights of the Old Republic comics, I think.
Yeah. And the video, and then the comics start before the video games. So.
Well,
Right.
To be fair, though, Mandalorians like barely existed, so like Lucas just kind of didn't really come up with anything with that. It was just like Boba Fett's a Mandalorian warrior. They're all gone. Okay.
And that is why Karen Travis and others decided to develop them.
Yeah. Well, when we get to the Clone Wars era, yeah.
Right.
I'll tell you about some essential stories.
We'll get there.
I think the framing when I was reading Tales of the Jedi really helped me feel like they're essential too, because it's like they're holocrons that people are looking back on as this is what happened in that period too.
Oh yeah. The amounts of references that you'll get later in other novels and comics, and obviously, or probably most famously, the Jedi Academy trilogy. Like, so it links everywhere else.
Yeah, I was thinking of that whenever you guys were talking about Exarchon and stuff like that, but I was like, I don't really need to know Exarchon's backstory. I don't really care. He's just that one Sith ghost guy.
You don't have to know, but if you're going, here's the Old Republic era, I go, this is main event.
But again, there's enough in that novel that you don't need that backstory. It's all explained for you. There's enough.
It goes back to what you said, Jeff, with like the whole nothing's actually essential.
Yeah, well, I mean, if the authors are doing their job, as I said, at the beginning of every given bit of work, they'll introduce everything afresh for the reader, usually succinctly, but they'll usually give you a brief overview of what's happened before, what's important, and then move on with their story.
Enough to understand what's going on.
So it's like nothing's essential, but at the same time, everything's essential. So because it is,
and when everything's essential, nothing will.
Nothing is.
Yeah. So I do have. So I do have a question, because we're talking about Knights of the Old Republic a little bit here too. Yeah. Did anyone include the Lost Tribe of the Sith stories? Did anyone include those in their list?
See, I really, really love that particular whole thing. I say by comics and short stories. And again, the problem is how essential is it? Because when the Lost Tribe of the Sith actually comes into the main storyline much, much later down the track, having their backstory is pretty cool. But again, do you need it? Well, no. You can actually read those novels as their own thing, and you're fine.
Yeah. I did not
have all that backstory. It's one of those things where it's just kind of cool to have. I mean, it almost seemed to fly in the face of Sith teachings to have basically an entire Sith society doing relatively well. So it was an interesting read. Yeah.
I liked it though. It was a neat twist.
Yeah.
And as I was reading through it chronologically, I didn't particularly feel like it mattered that much. Like, it's cool. They're cool
isolated
stories.
event.
Yeah.
Right. That's why I asked. I was like,
outside galaxy. They.
And I know that it does tie into Fate of the Jedi, but that's where later in the timeline I still have to read some of the novels.
Right. And Fate of the Jedi gives you all the context you really need for it.
Yeah, and again, it's one of those amazing things,
Yeah.
I mean, some things are a little bit clearer when you've read Legacy of the Force, and I'm sorry, Cam, but the New Jedi Order.
No. Don't read those.
Some things are a little bit clearer, just a little bit.
Yeah,
like Cal and Jeff's cameras compared to ours.
Just because we don't have a body hanging in the background.
Yeah, mine would be better if I didn't have the blur on, but I've got all kinds of junk behind me.
Yeah, that's why I have the blur on. Though apparently it's much more disturbing in blur.
Oh yeah.
Mine's almost 50% too, because I've got all my Star Wars stuff on one side, then all Cassie's anime stuff's on the other side. So it's like this.
That's awesome. I love that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The next one I actually did have was the Knights of the Old Republic comic run.
Yeah, that's what I got next. Which, again, is literally so. Tales of the Jedi covers 2 generations. Knights of the Old Republic is the next generation.
Yeah.
Which is crazy when you go there. It's
And
crazy.
I did think
Well,
I could
particularly
almost
under this-
go through and pick out like single issues of the Knights of the Old Republic comic run because some stuff doesn't seem essential. But for the sake of this, it's so much easier to just keep it all together.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to just keep the runs together because if you break them up, it gets more confusing. I mean, yeah, if we were to go through individual issues, we could literally chop out maybe a whole quarter of each run. But
So I did not include those just because I've only read part of them, and I feel like I don't necessarily need them to understand things.
that's fair. I mean, if you're just looking at Knights of the Old Republic, just that you really only need the games.
Which Cam also doesn't play because he doesn't like the gameplay.
No, the gameplay's
Right.
garbage. Garbage.
I actually understand not liking the gameplay.
Yeah.
I do. I like it, but that's because I'm a bit of a nostalgia game player.
Mm-hmm.
The only way I can play a video game is if the controls are good. If the controls are bad, I'm not touching it. It's just...
That's fair.
That makes sense, yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
No,
So,
the controls
yeah.
are clunky.
Main events the KOTOR comics cover that I hadn't realized until I read them as well was stuff like the whole Jedi Covenant thing, which is a storyline.
I did like the Jedi Covenant. I gotta be honest, I did not like the climax of the KOTOR comics with or am I thinking is it the climax of the KOTOR comics with the weird guy who was kind of like why am I blanking on his name? I feel terrible. the main character, I'm blanking on his name. In Knights of the Old Republic comics. Zane, yes. The guy who's like he's kind of like Zane in that like his force aptitude is kind of funky, but he's that woman's like assistant or whatever. I'm trying to think of his name.
Yeah.
Roll blanking.
Dr. Demigol, I think. What's it?
No. I'm talking about Lucy and Dre's mom, her like assistant guy.
Her. Yeah, the assistant guy. That one. Because it's like...
Couldn't tell you.
I was looking at the end of it too because we were discussing part of one of the other topics. And I'm like...
The problem with the Star Wars is that there's so many... I don't even know. It's certainly in the hundreds of thousands of characters that...
Yeah, but I'm talking about this guy because like at the end of that, like he's trying to make Zane into his like he's trying to essentially create the ones like with himself in the role of the father, Zane in the role of the daughter, and Lucy and Dre in the role of the son. It was really weird. And this is before the ones became a thing in TCW. Long
those
before.
concepts of the way the Force works still works. Yeah, it's still there.
Right. Like that's the idea behind it. That was kind of his idea. And like I just don't recall like his name. But you know the character I'm talking about, right, Cal?
Yeah, I don't remember the name either.
I do have a question for you guys. What is this Jedi Covenant thing you're talking about? I know nothing about KOTOR.
Exactly.
So okay. So the gist of it is, so these are the people, these are the children of the Jedi who lived during the time of Tales of the Jedi. So this is, like the post Exar Kun people. Okay. So these are their children. The Jedi Covenant was basically their whole group. Their whole purpose was to prevent another Sith uprising from within the ranks of the Jedi, which obviously failed.
That's how it founded. And then,
wow. What a bunch of idiots.
and then they and then they just turned dark side essentially.
Well,
So they
what they
became the
did,
Sith. Okay.
so what they did was they got a vision of Malik, who was not one of their apprentices, I will add, but he wears a flight suit very similar to what their apprentices wore. Mm-hmm. And so they assumed that it was one of their apprentices. So they killed them all, and Zane Carrick is the only one who survived because he just happened to be running late.
I do vaguely remember the part, where that happens. I do remember that.
That's the gist.
And then he just rocks up like, what?
Yep.
Okay.
It's not a good position to be in.
No.
It's literally like in Robot Chicken Star Wars, whenever Jarl Poof shows up to the Jedi Council chamber with pizza and everything's on fire and everyone's dead. And he's like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, and it literally is.
Yep.
Poor guy.
So yeah, I included it especially for the Covenant because that's an important faction that you don't see in anything else much because that comic run went right until 2013, so it wasn't able to be expanded upon a lot either.
Yeah. I didn't like the secondary. They had a continuation. It was like what was they had like a subtitle.
War, because you have Legacy War and Knights of the Old Republic War.
Oh, that was whenever you had those crossover like vector things and
They just named them the same subtitle, and it's like, well, why?
Yeah, Knights of the Old Republic War was not as good. It like that those comics were not as good.
I think they knew they had to wrap them up, and that caused the problem.
that was the problem.
That caused a problem with a few different works.
Yeah.
The Legacy comics in particular, like that.
I know. Legacy 2. Oh, they did those so dirty. Those were so good.
I do not consider Legacy 2, for the record, to be essential. I mean, I know we're not there yet, but
we'll get there eventually.
Very eventually.
Yeah.
Right at the end.
So then, obviously, there's the games. There's the Knights of the Republic games. With Revan and Malik and the Sith Triumvirate.
So interesting enough for me, I don't really care about KOTOR 2 quite as much as far as Essential goes. Because I feel
that's fair.
What I've included is the Revan novel, which gives you the background of what's important from KOTOR 2. And when I was playing KOTOR 2, it just felt incomplete without any mods or anything.
That's true.
Well, there is that. Yeah, there is that mod pack that helps that a little bit. But yeah.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it'd also be a thing of like if you're saying it's essential for the video game, then you kind of have to do the light side ending because that's the canonical ending.
Yes, as far as Knights of the Republic goes, because it is canon to the EU. It is the light side ending, and you pretty much have to follow pretty much most of the light side options. I think there's a couple of like more gray options that you can go with, but for the most part, you have to kind of lean.
Probably don't matter as much.
Yeah, for the most part, you have to lean pretty light side.
But why is the games why are they essential? I don't.
You don't get a lot of Revan otherwise.
But do you need Revan?
Yes, because Revan establishes the concept of the rule of two.
Really, you have Bane though with that. So I mean,
yes, but you do need Revan's. You need to know a little bit about Revan in order to fully understand the references to him.
I'm not saying that it because you have the whole thing with Revan and Malik coming back and attacking the Republic, which is a major event in the timeline. And then you also have inside the game the Battle of the Star Forge, the star maps, and all that. And the whole plot is basically the main event for that part of the timeline, ending in the defeat of Malik and the Sith.
Which is the thing too.
I think we've went like our versions of Essential are very different versions of Essential. I think.
Absolutely.
That's good though, because we can discuss it.
The thing is, I see. This is where we butted heads the first time, and we butted heads in a very good way. But if you want to know what's essential is watching episode 4 of New Hope. That's it. Good night, everyone. Bye. Yeah, we're done. It's an open shut story. Yeah, Luke's a farm kid. He ends up being the end.
He's the hero.
That's
Boom.
kind of, that's where the essential lies, and then everything else from there. Because as I said before, you could probably expand that to the original trilogy. And again, similar kind of thing. There's a conflict. It's ended. There's a party. There's Ewoks. Thank you. Good night. And then if you're going to go with George Lucas's idea of essential being the father, the father of the children, the grandchildren, which was his idea of this overarching idea of redemption through 3 generations. Again, we're losing an awful lot of the EU, but I think what Cal was doing was just taking every single era and just saying what stories were essential to that era. Because the Old Republic era was just stories, short stories, games, spin-offs, mods. There's all kinds of fun stuff.
Yeah. Especially for people
way...
that want to try and understand what happens in the timeline, but they go, "Oh, there's so much stuff."
Yeah,
right.
Because otherwise it's a New Hope. It's a New Hope.
Yeah, I think the way I did it was, okay, what information does the EU have that makes it essential to understand, like, the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy, like the I will say the Force as well, with the whole like the Jedi, Dawn of the Jedi stuff. But like, I saw it as like essential things. I don't know that really. I don't know, move the story along and really connect it to the 2 trilogies. Like,
that's fair.
That's a
or give you a really strong understanding.
Approach it from a different direction.
I think Cal and I were looking primarily at what is essential to each time period or each era, at least.
Yeah,
and I think that's where we're
had
kind
no
of
organization with that. Like, I just pulled things out of my brain that was like, okay, this is important because of Y. This is important because of X.
And I'm not saying that, like, I don't want you to think that the way you're doing it is wrong at all.
Because
same thing with you guys.
I appreciate that we're doing it differently. Honestly,
I mean,
Cal and I are even looking at it from different angles, and we're still grabbing some of the same stories here. Like, Jeff, did you even have a list?
I do have a list, but the problem is that's where now we're going to me, where I'm just a total opposite, where I could almost encompass everything, and only because in terms of essential, like I said before, everything hangs off to something else to some degree. There's threads that go from here, like, this story begets that story, this story begets that one, this one's attached to that one, this explains this faction, this explains this. So there's not an awful lot for me that wasn't essential, to be honest, only because, as I said, you either say what is essential to the core movies, which is not a lot, because the core movies are in fact a watchable entity. You don't walk away from the movies going, what was that bit about? So you don't need anything. But in terms of the EU, you just kind of keep going because it's all so very attached. There's very, very few stories that exist in a vacuum that don't link to something else. So but I definitely have a list, but the problem is my list is probably somewhat more encompassing and the other thing too is for me it's enjoyability, because again there are some stories that are very essential, but probably aren't the best reading. That if you're trying to get a friend into the EU for the first time, and you gave them, you gave them a certain
book 3 of Jedi Prince.
Yeah, give them a Jedi Prince. It's probably not going to be the best place to start.
See, if I wasn't already a big Star Wars fan, I definitely would not have gotten into the EU. But I read other stuff that was much more exciting.
Well, see, even something like Darth Plagueis, I would probably argue, because now, and I know I've jumped forward the timeline a bit, but just to be real quick, Darth Plagueis adds an awful lot of value to the prequels. You know, there's an awful lot
It
there.
does.
Very, very
It
delicious.
does.
And it
That's
also
on my
borrows
list.
a lot from the EU. But by the same token, that probably wouldn't be a great starting point, because a lot of the value that's in that is the fact that it draws on so many other EU works and ties up, you know, so many different things with Maul's arcs and politically, that a lot of the value there and a lot of the enjoyment there is for someone who, because when was it published? Like 2013 or something, or 2014 maybe even, like quite late.
Yeah,
quite
like
late.
that, yeah.
Very late, yeah.
Yeah. And at that point,
Yeah.
a lot of people who were reading it had already had everything else under their belt, and that's where the enjoyability came. As a first book, I reckon someone would get real confused, because there's so many different things going on, so many spinning plates, that I wouldn't necessarily call it essential from a first reader's perspective, but incredibly essential to a seasoned EU fan perspective.
I think I'm pretty sure I saw on Reddit someone went, I'm returning to Darth Plagueis because I tried starting it and then I didn't get most of the connection in that, so they read other stuff and then returned to it.
It is a good idea to have other things involved in it, because it makes more sense when you've got the information, because there are plenty of story of Darth Maul related stories that I was totally lost on until I got them, and I was like, oh, this makes more sense now. I understand this. So did anyone have Star Wars The Old Republic included, the video game, the MMO?
That's why I ended up putting the Revan novel in, because it's the connecting piece between KOTOR 1 and SWTOR.
Yeah, I was very unsure if I should include it, and I honestly don't think any of the other Star Wars The Old Republic novels are necessary.
No.
I feel like all the other ones are unnecessary. I feel like Revan's the only necessary one. And then you have SWTOR. And I really only think that you need the Jedi Knight storyline. Everything else is kind of not as well thought out.
I was
at least from my gameplay experience. Yeah. Maybe the Bounty Hunter, I didn't finish it, but that was the only other one that was really interesting to me.
But the game is
it really is
KOTOR itself. Because again, if we're going to go with Cal's definition of what is it that best summarizes an era, well, KOTOR pretty much does it. You don't really need much else, because KOTOR just you get the state of the Jedi at that time, you get the state of the Sith at that time, you get the state of the galaxy at that time, what ships felt like, what planets looked like, what the feelings towards Mandalorians were at the time, blah blah blah. Like, there is so much. That game is so in depth. Even if you go back now and try and play it, it feels kind of dated, despite the fact that I go and replay it all the time.
Oh, yeah. It is very dated.
But by the same token, though, if you want to have an overarching feel for what that era was like, well, that'd be it. By the time you finished, you can... it's not like you would read one of the novels and go, oh, wow, the Jedi with this, that, or the other. It's like, no, you know exactly what planet the Jedi are on, what their beliefs are, how they're training people, how they're, it's... It gives you the overall story, and it's also a pretty good story, even if it is. I know by our standards now, it probably feels very predictable.
It does,
but that's because I've played it up to a million times.
Well, that's it. Right. But it fooled us all the first time, so yay.
Yeah.
I was a little bit more encompassing with the SWTOR video MMO. So for Star Wars: The Old Republic MMO, because I thought the base game class stories, because I feel like they all sort of work together, especially by the end. They complement each other.
Yeah,
I guess they do. I don't know. I played all the way to the end of the Sith sorcerer storyline, and I didn't particularly like it. I felt that was kind of I felt like the climax was not that great. I was like,
Yeah.
this is disappointing.
And as an MMO,
don't-
it's a big time sink too. So there's a whole thing of like you're picking up details from playing through, and it's such a huge time sink that you could say it's not essential just because it takes so long to be able to take in everything.
That's my argument. Is it's an MMO. In no good conscience could I ever say you have to play this MMO. That's
No.
insane to me because it's so much time to go into it, to play all the different classes, to play all the DLC,
Well, even to play
all this stuff.
Yeah.
Just
Even to
one.
play one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, even to play one class. Like, because I played through the Republic Trooper to the end recently, and that was still weeks of gameplay just to get there.
Right.
And I
like,
played
the
them
only
on
one
stream, and it took me so long to get through all of the base class stories, just doing like the main story arc and the planetary story arc. Not even any of the side quests.
Well, and if you look at most of the DLCs, most of the expansions are kind of centered. If you look at them in context and the way that they're written out, they all seem to kind of be centered on the idea that you are continuing the story with the Jedi Knight class character.
Yeah, that makes
Like
sense.
it's very much pulling that character along, because if you're playing, for example, one of the Sith characters, you feel very confused at a certain point,
Or non-force
because it's
sensitive.
somewhat Yeah. Oh, especially a non-force sensitive. It makes no sense if you're playing a non-force sensitive at a certain point. It's like total. Like you can get away. Like the Rise of the Hutt Cartel is okay. Like it doesn't. Like I feel like that's okay. You don't need to be a specific class for that one. But for Revan, it feels very weird if you're playing a Sith character, and if you're like and beyond that,
especially later on when they bottlenecked it to a single storyline instead of having something unique.
Well, if you've got a storyline that's working towards Force users, then playing anybody else is going to be a bad day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Once you get past Rise of the Hutt Cartel, it's like everything kind of requires you to be force sensitive, and it just
that's why I tended to just
and
put
then,
the base
and then it
game.
bottlenecks more.
At least that cuts down the time a little bit, but it's still a lot.
Right.
And
It
like,
is
that's
a
one
bit.
of the things I was like, we'll discuss.
Yeah, I beat the Sith Warrior storyline on the main game, and then I think I beat the Hutt Cartel thing, and then I was like, yeah, I don't care anymore.
But I do think if you don't have the SWTOR, you don't need the Revan novel.
No.
Yeah, I don't have the
That
Revan
is
novel.
true.
Because it is
That
mainly
is
a
true.
connecting piece to see where Revan ended up in one of the operations, not even in the main story of SWTOR.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
as a
that's
side
how
note,
unessential it is. It's not even in the main
as a
story.
side note, though, was anyone else playing the MMO and you get to the point where you got to rescue Revan? You're like, wait, that was it?
Yeah,
What?
pretty much.
I actually didn't get there. I never got there. I never got past the Hutt Cartel.
Yeah, I didn't go past Hutt
Because
Cartel.
especially if you take Lord Scourge, and he has no dialogue.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, and that's because I know the reason for that. I know about it, and like the reason that Scourge doesn't talk is because the actor didn't want to come back. The voice actor didn't want to come back to continue the to voice for the character, which I'm like, you're telling me you couldn't find another voice actor who could kind of mimic the original guy's voice? Like, come on.
Yeah.
It's not the same. Who cares? Just
It's still the
Just hire
character
somebody
doing the
else.
lines, and then later on they were just like, "Ho ho, let's remove all voice lines and just have it as text."
Yeah.
Right.
Because that's somewhat
later
weirder, isn't it? It'd be like if you're filming episode 3 and you're like, well, Hayden Christensen said he wasn't going to come back, so we're just going to do the whole movie without Anakin. We're just going to pretend he's there, but there's actually nobody there. And somehow that's better. That's better than just finding a guy that looks kind of like him. It'd be the same thing with this. It's like, well, rather than this character speak, we're just going to have them sit there as a mute, despite the fact that Revan's standing in front of them.
Yeah, and
Because
especially because it was so
voice.
interconnected in the novel.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's the thing.
Because I actually did that playthrough with Cass. She's not a huge EU fan at all, certainly not to the extent that I am. But even her not realizing that it should have been a big moment was like, what happened? What was that? Is that it? Like,
Whenever
Right,
you're
like,
saying
that's
is
the
that
thing.
it in the middle of a game, that's not good.
no.
Right. Like, that's the thing.
So almost
Yeah,
then I'd
no,
just
and-
take out I'd not have Swoter in there and take out the Revan novel.
Honestly, I was really on the fence about just having the Revan novel in, to be honest.
I
Like,
mainly
it's
had it
not
in
really
because if you're
necessary.
including Swotor, you need to have that connecting piece of what
Right.
happened in between to lead to that point.
Well, it's one of those things that's incredibly integral to the era. If you're going to look at the era as a lump, and it would be a very important piece. But then as an overall galactic history is an important piece.
And
Yeah.
the expansions are questionable, especially at a certain point, because they start going into stuff that might not actually line up with the EU very well, and there's no resolution. So it's like you're saying, oh, here,
Right.
have this essential piece of media that's going to give you this outline of the Infinite Empire was the wrong word. The new empire that he created in sequel.
Eternal Empire.
Eternal Empire, that's right. It was
Yeah.
close to Infinite.
Yeah, which honestly,
And
for anything that calls itself an empire, it is the smallest empire in the
Yeah.
history of the galaxy. It is
And-
the small. The Hut space isn't even classified as an empire, and it's like 3 times the size.
And
Yeah.
and it's just one of those things that now they've still got an ongoing storyline that isn't wrapped up. So I can't, in good conscience, say to go and play the expansions either.
No.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, honestly,
And also,
I feel like at a certain point it's just a waste.
Yeah,
Yeah, integral parts of that or essential parts of that KOTOR light side playthrough.
yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much. And I've put the
Right.
KOTOR ramp
Pretty
behind
much,
it
yeah.
because it gives you background as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but not
So
much after,
then-
not until you get to Bane, really.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was going to say, it pretty much just brings us right to Bane, because, I mean, there are short stories and little things here and there, but it's pretty much just comes down to the Darth Bane trilogy.
Yes.
At this
I
point.
also have the Bane trilogy because that's where you establish the rule of 2.
Mm-hmm.
You establish like the grand plan of how the Sith are going to take down the Republic.
Yeah.
Well, arguably, it's probably one of the first EU works I've mentioned so far that has a very direct tie-in to the 6 movies.
yeah,
Yes.
The whole rule,
And that's why it's essential to
Very, yeah,
Right.
that's very
And
understandable.
I almost
So is
thought
this really the
that-
first thing for you, Cam?
Yeah, that's where his timeline starts. 1,000 years before.
I had Dawn of the Jedi.
Okay. So you did have Dawn of the
From
Jedi.
Dawn of the Jedi to
Darth
this.
Bane. Yeah,
Okay. That's fair.
Bit of a
That's
jump.
fair.
A bit of a jump.
yeah.
It is a jump.
I almost thought that possibly you could just read Path of Destruction and not need to read the other 2 novels.
I
You could argue that.
No, you
But
could
I don't-
argue for it, but if you, because we like now I'll give my reasoning for why you can't. What, like, there are, I mean, like, my argument is for keeping, especially Rule of 2. Rule of 2 establishes Xana as a character in her own right, and actually as a Sith Lord. I mean, obviously it's implied, and there are references to her in Darth Plagueis, but and this is something that Wikipedia is wrong on, and it drives me crazy.
Surprise, surprise.
That's my shock.
In the Phantom Menace novelization, they reference you have Qui-Gon's thoughts a little bit, and he talks about, and he thinks about Darth Bane and Darth Bane's apprentice and how he was.
Yeah.
Okay, it specifies he. Well, how do we get the correction of that? In the Rule of 2, they believed that Daravit, her cousin, was actually Bane's apprentice when they killed him. They thought that's what it was, but they don't. But like, he has no name in in the novel because they wouldn't know his name, or if they did, only a handful of people would have any idea, and they wouldn't
especially
really
that
know.
long afterwards.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. It's we're talking about 900 plus years, so obviously we're not going to know. So that's
we
the
wouldn't
thing.
know now, historically.
Right.
We wouldn't know now.
Right.
Like if you were just sitting out there in your backyard thinking about Napoleon's doctor and just thinking how he was one of, maybe Napoleon's doctor was a woman. Like it's historically so removed from what you're doing from your own. If you don't know, he could.
Right.
Obviously, Qui-Gon's incredibly sexist. He's just made an assumption. But
I mean, that's another option as well. I mean, that's the only reason I would consider the rule of two at the very least essential.
Because
and in my opinion, if you're going to have the first two books, you have to include the third one.
Yeah, I don't split trilogies or duologies or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like if it's a series, I feel like you need to read the whole series.
Yeah, that makes sense too. I was mainly thinking because in Path of Distraction is where it features the whole Battle of Rusan, the Thought Bomb, and
but see, by the same token, you could just use the comic.
Yeah.
Like, and I know this isn't necessarily my opinion, but you could argue that just use the comic because the comic itself outlines everything that you call essential. There's like the Jedi and the Sith are here in a war. They're on this one planet. There's the thought bomb that goes off. All the Sith are gone except for Bane. He's got this one young girl. It's left rather ambiguous at the end of the comic, I guess, that she will be Darth Vader, but you can extrapolate that from what's happening. And Dareth just walks off into the sunset with his walking stick and one hand missing. And it's one of those things that even the comic itself gives you all those key points that you sort of need. Bane existed, the Sith are gone, he's on his own, he grabs an apprentice, roll curtain. And you could argue you could really boil it down.
The only thing being what Ethan said with the whole canonical clarification would be the only thing that the novels then give.
And then of course,
and do you really need that if you just use the comic? Yeah.
Right.
And the connection of the
thing.
Banite line to Darth Plagueis later on.
Right, but even then, Plagueis outlines these characters a little bit. He references Xana, Cognis. He even references Millennial. He lists off ones that we don't hear about anywhere else.
Yeah,
and so he only lists a handful.
I kind of thought
we don't even know most of them.
He lists them, so do we really need to know the ins and outs of one or two of them from the second and third books?
I don't think so. I mean, it's nice to have who Cognis was before she became a Sith, and it's nice to actually have Xana's apprenticeship told to us. I still would love a Darth Xana focused novel where she is the master and Cognis is her apprentice. I'd like to see that at some
said
point.
He'd be up for it if he was allowed to.
Honestly, I know he would. I know he'd write that story. He may have already written it for all we know, and he just won't publish it without Lucasfilm backing, and he probably wouldn't do it unless it's actually part of the EU, so that's the other thing.
He can just release a story about a character called, I don't know, Varth Dana, and then we can just do that.
Right.
Or just take to Twitter and say, I'm sorry, my computer got hacked. I don't know what happened, man. I was just...
It's on the internet now.
Suspicious link. Yeah, sorry.
Right.
Well, the other good thing, too, about not using the comic as the essential is that now we don't have to deal with Valentine's ship.
Yeah.
So
right.
And that's where sometimes...
Out of all the ship designs, that was a bit...
Yeah. That's where I put, novel details over a comic, because a comic will always be an artistic interpretation from one point of view.
That is true.
You mean a certain point of view?
Yeah. And so the details of the novel will be generally more accurate, even though you can imagine it in different ways depending on who's reading it.
Right. Yeah. So, okay. So then I don't have anything listed. So, again, I listed mine in chronological order. So after the Darth Bane trilogy... actually, no, I have a reason for wanting to include... Well, no, really.
Mm.
No, yeah, I do have a reason for wanting to include. I do have another reason for wanting to include the entirety of the trilogy is because you get the establishment of the Rusan reformations
Ah, yeah.
Yeah.
in there,
That's fair.
and it's only alluded to very vaguely in the prequel trilogy related stuff. Otherwise, it's very vague.
And yeah, we're not splitting
yeah.
up comic runs, so I don't see an issue with not splitting up trilogies. I just thought that was a good point to bring up of like sometimes
Right.
can. Huge thanks for anyone watching or listening and hanging out in the brightest center of the galaxy. If you want to hear more, make sure to follow on the appropriate platform of your choice. I'm planning to have this on Spotify and YouTube, and Apple Podcasts if I can get it working. I'm your host, Callum, and this has been the Callum's Cantina podcast. And remember, the films are just the beginning. The expanded universe is where the galaxy truly grows into its own. So see you next time you visit the Cantina.